Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallam. I want to finish up a little bit about Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and then begin talking about Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam as part of our series about the humanity and humility of the Prophet ajma'in as evidence to their du'as in the Quran. The first thing is that there's only one du'a from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam that is mentioned in Quran al-Kareem, and that is the one that we did yesterday, last night. That's Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and Sayyidina Hawa, Nas Hawa. And remember, this is in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah 7, verse 23. قَالَا رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. So we've already explained the whole story of Nabi Adam alayhi salam leading up to this point and how he made this dua. So first understand the components of this dua. And this dua, as I had mentioned to you last night also, is a sentence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Nabi Adam alayhi salam how to express the feeling that was in his heart. The first feeling is zalamna anfusana. That means iqrar, itiraf, to accept and acknowledge one's mistake. This is the first thing to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second is wanting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's maghfirah. And that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us and wipes away that sin and wipes away that mistake. The third aspect is rahmah. Rahmah means when it comes after maghfirah, that after Allah Ta'ala has forgiven us for the sin, number one, that the distance or gap that may have come between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of our sin, Allah Ta'ala out of His mercy removes that distance. Or the misguidance that we had fallen upon due to that sin, Allah Ta'ala out of His mercy brings us back on guidance. Or the mess that we created, or the problems that were caused, or maybe the people that we hurt, or the people we disappointed due to that sin, Allah Ta'ala out of His rahmah rectifies our affairs and rectifies our relationships. Because sometimes when something's broke, fine, you need to be forgiven for broken it, but then you also need Allah Ta'ala's mercy to help you fix it. So these are the three aspects of the feeling of this dua. So anytime any one of us want to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in istighfar, the first thing is the humility, to humble oneself, not offer excuse, rationalization, justification, but accept I was wrong. And the second is to beg Allah Ta'ala to forgive us. And the third is to ask Allah to send His mercy upon us in the ways that I described. And the last part I had already discussed with you last time, لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Before I turn to the du'as of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, it's interesting that after this incident, because this is the first episode of Nabi Adam alayhi salam's earthly life, right? And we did in Quran all the things that happened in Jannah, and then he's sent down to earth, and then he, and if you remember from Hadith, he wanders the earth, and then he reunites with his spouse, Sayyidina Hawa, many say on the plains of Arafah, and then they make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is actually the first, you can say, joint spousal act in the history of humanity. The first husband and the first wife, the first man and the first woman, the first thing they did jointly together on earth was make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can also extract a general lesson from this, that this from the first word here, qala. We normally don't say that when we make the dua, we just start with the Rabbana zalamna anfusana. But there's a word before that, qala, that the two of them said. So there's also a lesson for us that this is what it means to be husband and wife, to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together, to share that spiritual journey, to remind one another and support one another in the feelings we're supposed to feel for and about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, before I move to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, I will just very quickly summarize this. I won't go through all of those verses of Quran and Hadith. But what happened in the life of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam after this? Okay, so there's the whole story of what happened in Jannah. He came down to earth, and him and Nas, Sayyidina Hawa radhiyallahu anha, Ummul Mu'mineen, Ummul Anbiya, Sayyidina Hawa, she made this dua along with him. So those of you who know your history and the stories of the Anbiya, you will know that they had children, right? And so that's not something that happens in Jannah, but that happens in earth. So they had children, they had sons. And then what happened? One son killed the other son. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Now this is an incredible test for any father and mother, for any parent. Then imagine if that father and mother are the parents of humanity. What an incredible test that is. Then imagine if that father is a Nabi, Imagine if that father and mother had both already lived in Jannah and they're having to endure life on earth. They had already lived in this pure and pristine because Nas Sayyidah Hawa was also living in Jannah. And then they have to endure this issue of one son killing the other son. It's a huge test. This was the first ummah. This is a very small ummah. The sons, you can say, they were like the Sahaba of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And in front of their father / Nabi, one killed the other one. Allahu Akbar Kabira. So many times we try to tell our friends that, sometimes, bad things happen to us in our life and we make the mistake and we think maybe Allah Ta'ala is angry with me. No, if something bad happens to somebody in their life, it doesn't mean necessarily that Allah Ta'ala is angry with us. Because actually, if somebody's tested in their life, it doesn't mean Allah Ta'ala is angry with them. Because if you look at it, and the Prophet ﷺ has himself mentioned in hadith, that the most tried and tested people of all of humanity are the Anbiya. And then he said, the most tested of the Anbiya was me. But we also know that the most beloved of all of humanity are the Anbiya. And the most beloved of the Anbiya are Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alright? So this was the story in the life of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Next is Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Chronologically, the next prophet is Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. And 99% of ulama are of this opinion, that there were no prophets between Adam alayhi salam and Nuh alayhi salam. So Nuh alayhi salam is the second Nabi. That suggests that to some extent the teachings of Nabi Adam alayhi salam remained until the time of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. The story of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam is mentioned in several different surahs of Quran Kareem. And there's about a dozen or so du'as of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam mentioned in Quran Kareem. So I'm going to go sequentially. The first place where the story of Nuh alayhi salam appears in his du'as is Surah Hud. Surah Hud is Surah 11. Surah Hud is Surah 11 in juz number 12. Alright? And the story of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam begins, so let me open this up, in Surah Hud, verse 25. Surah Hud, verse 25 onward. The dua will appear a little bit later. The duas will start in the 40s, but the story starts in verse 25. Okay, and I'm not going to read and translate the entire story. I will just summarize because I'm assuming that most people here will know most aspects of the story. Alright, I'm just going to pluck out certain things of the story. So Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam is sent to his people, right, as a Nabi, as a warner, bearer of glad tidings that they should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, etc. And as you might remember, the tribal chiefs and the elders, and you can say the social elites and political elites of his community didn't believe in him and chose not to accept his prophethood and prophecy. And looking at them, or perhaps on their own, the overwhelming majority of the people to whom he was sent as a prophet chose not to accept him as a prophet. So first question I want to mention here, first aspect, is why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning all this in Quran Kareem? So one aspect of it is yes, simply to educate us as an ummah about earlier prophets, but one aspect is also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing a parallel that in the Meccan period, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam may not exactly the same, but faced a similar situation where the tribal chiefs and the many of the chiefs and elders and social and political elites were not accepting his nubuwah, and looking at them, or perhaps on their own, many individuals and people were also not accepting the nubuwah of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's giving a consolation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's giving a consolation to the Sahaba Ikram, the Mu'mineen. And it's also giving a guidance and a lesson that and this is, how we say as historians, you have to learn from history, right? So we, as humanity, we must learn from prophetic history. The real history of humanity is the history of the Prophets ﷺ. That should be the course taught. Much more important than global history, intellectual history, XYZ history. The greatest history of humanity and the greatest value and the greatest lessons that can be learned is the history of the Prophets ﷺ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned elements of that in Quran al-Kareem. Alright. So Here, it's very standard. It's a standard narrative, a trope that will repeat itself, unfortunately, in the lives of many of the Anbiya, that the people don't accept them. They accuse them of being a liar. They say, you're just like us. And all of these things were said about Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself. So then I pause here and come back to you on the topic of humanity, because the people who were alive at the time of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam and the Arabs who were alive at the time of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not be any more different in terms of culture and everything. But there's one thing that they had in common, is their humanity. And it shows us this is a historical thing that we see when we do the history of the prophets. We're also learning the history of humanity, that throughout history, so many different types, cultures, race, ethnicity, background, technological development, people rejected Anbiya, were reluctant or even, na'udzubillah, loath to accept Anbiya, and came up with the same arguments right from the time of Nuh alayhi salam. We don't have anything like that for Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, but immediately then from Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam all the way up to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, same arguments. You are just like us, you're, deluded, you want power, you're doing this for authority. Same thing, same deception. Allahu Akbar. Ajib. So here, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam then says a beautiful thing to them, and this again will be repeated. Let me do a little bit of this for you before we come to the dua. So if you look at verse number 29, so we're here on Surah 11, Surah Hud, verse number 29. وَيَا قَوْمِ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ مَالًا. Look, I'm not asking you for any wealth, any compensation. I don't want anything. This is the same thing Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say to the Quraysh. You could put the sun and moon in each of my hands. That's not what I want. Nabi Nuh alayhi says, In ajriya illa alallahi. No, you can't even reward me or recompense me in any way. My reward is only lies and can come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. And I'm not going to drive away those who have accepted Iman. إِنَّهُمْ مَلَاقُوا رَبِّهِمْ وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ. And they will meet their Lord certainly. But I see that you have become a qawm. Tajhalun, a qawm that has a people, a community that has adopted ignorance. Alright. Khair. Then Nuh alayhi salam, he keeps talking to them, right? Telling them that, I don't know, I don't claim to you that I know the unseen. This is important. وَلَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ. I don't know all of the unseen. وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ. And I'm not telling you that I'm an angel. Right? He keeps trying. They keep refusing, they keep disputing, they keep denying. He keeps trying, he keeps advising. This goes on and on for several verses. Alright? Continues for several verses. Finally, in verse 36, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down wahi on Nuh alayhi salam. What? وَأُوهِيَ إِلَى نُوحٍ أَنَّهُ لَن يُؤْمِنَ مِنْ قَوْمِكَ إِلَّا مَنْ قَدْ آمَنَ. Allah ta'ala, it's revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam what? That now, henceforth, none of your community is going to believe. No one. Except those who already have accepted belief. So it's finished now. فَلَا تَبْتَئِسْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. So don't be distressed and disturbed in any way by all the things that they have been doing. And then Allah Ta'ala commands him to make the famous boat, which they call Noah's Ark. And then he builds the boat. Alright. And then Allah Ta'ala explains to him all the things that will happen, and you should embark in the boat. So, the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then now if you go forward to 41, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Nuh alayhi salam, وَقَالَ ارْكَبُوا فِيهَا. You should now embark, aboard the ship. Bismillahi majreha wa mursaha. And you should take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you board it. Alright? So in some sense you could also say, I wouldn't say this is the first dua, but that you should take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you board it. And then Allah ta'ala tells him that you should, in its coursing and in its mooring and its traveling, Inna Rabbi laghafurur rahim, and indeed my Rabb is all forgiving and all merciful. Alright. Then Nuh alayhi salam is going to make the first dua here, which is about his son, which is for his son. Alright? So this is going to come in verse number 45. وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ. So this is a different verb. It's not dua. It's not supplicated. وَنَادَى. He called upon. He implored. He called out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, imploring. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam called out to Rabbahu, his Rabb. فَقَال. And he said, Rabbi inna ibni min ahli wa inna wa'daka al-haqqu. So because before this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam that your ahl will be saved, right? And so what does ahl mean? So ahl could mean your physical progeny, or ahl could mean your spiritual progeny, right? And this is also an education that who are the ahl rasul of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the ahl of all of the anbiya are their spiritual followers, their spiritual progeny, not only their physical progeny. Alright? But Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, he calls out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that indeed my son, he is from my ahl, and your promise that you would save all my ahl is also haqq. Wa anta ahkamul hakimin, and you are the most just of all the judges. So immediately Allah ta'ala replies. We didn't have a response to the dua of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Here in immediate next ayah is the reply of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with verse 46. Qala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya Nuh, innahu laysa min ahlik. Indeed, he, that boy, that son, laysa min ahlik. He's not from your true family, your spiritual family, your family of iman. He's not from your ummah. The ahl of a Nabi is their ummah. For our Nabi Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, all of the Sahaba, not some of them, all of the Sahaba Ikram radiyallahu ta'ala anhum were his ummah, therefore all of the Sahaba are his ahl. Innahu amalan ghayru salih. Now it's very interesting. It doesn't mention his iman. His kufr. Amalan ghayru salih. It's very scary. His deeds are other than that which would be considered virtuous and righteous. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ إِلْمٍ. It's a very strong rebuke by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. And don't you dare ever ask me concerning those things regarding which you have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. إِنِّي أَعِذُكَ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. I'm admonishing, indeed I admonish you and warn you never to ask me like that, lest you become from the jahilin, from the ignorant. Immediately the Nuh alayhi salam responds, Qala. Now Nuh alayhi salam says, Rabbi inni a'udhu bika, O my Rabb, indeed I seek refuge through you, an as'aluka ma laysa li bihi ilm, that I ever in my whole life ever ask you concerning anything regarding which I have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. Wa illa taghfir li. The same, look at the same word, same tertib. What was that? Rabbana. And what was this? Rabbana illam taghfir lana. Wa illa taghfir li, because there were two of them, Nabi Adam alayhi salam and Sayyidah Hawa. Now this is just Nuh alayhi salam on his own making the dua, so he's doing it in the singular form, but the same words in the same order. There what was it? Wa in lam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Here what do you see? Wa illa taghfir li, and Allah, unless you forgive me, وَتَرْحَمْنِي, and you shower your mercy upon me, أَكُمْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ, I will be amongst the khasirin. Allahu Akbar. Now, did Nabi Nuh alayhi salam come at these words because Allah Ta'ala guided him? That's not mentioned here, like it was mentioned there about Nabi Adam alayhi salam. Right? And it's interesting, going back to Nabi Adam alayhi salam, that the first thing we learned about him is that Allah Ta'ala taught him the asma, taught him the names of so many things, but he didn't know how to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala to teach him those sentences then. So here, it's quite possible that Nabi Nuh alayhi salam came up with similar, or really almost near identical words on his own. It's possible he had received a tradition of deen and knew about the dua of Nabi Adam alayhi salam. It's possible in the same way that Allah Ta'ala revealed to Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the key duas of the previous Anbiya. Allah Ta'ala also already revealed to Nabi Nuh alayhi salam the key dua of Nabi Adam alayhi salam, in which case Nabi Nuh alayhi salam would also have known about Nabi Adam alayhi salam's son killing one another, and now his son. So these first two prophets were tested through their own sons. Khair, after he immediately walked back from his assertion and he seeks refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's an extra part in the start. Inni a'udhu bika, because he's specifically seeking refuge from that mistake that he did. So that I never ever want to ask, and I have no ability, I seek refuge in you. I ask you, Allah Ta'ala, to make me in such a way that I never ask you regarding that which I have no knowledge whatsoever. So then again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds, but here the phrase, the grammatical phrase changes. If you saw that it's qala, 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 here it's qila, and it was said, Ya Nuh bit bisalamin minna wa barakatin alik. So the reason is here that qila it's not being used strictly for its grammatical usage. The grammatical shift is qila as a softer form. So the sense is that when Allah Ta'ala first spoke or addressed Nuh alayhi salam, right? Qala ya Nuh. So it was very in Allah Ta'ala's might and majesty. And here, qila ya Nuh. So it means that Allah Ta'ala said in His sweet, gentle, soft, loving, compassionate, merciful tone. Hence it's being used in what's called fi'l majul qila. Ya Nuh. Ya Nuh bit bisalamin minna. That okay, now you disembark with salam. Minna, with salam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from me. It means in every aspect of my being and all of my attributes, I am happy with you, I am pleased with you, you're an absolute peace from me. Wa barakatin alaik, and I send barakat, and I send blessings alaik upon you. Wa ala umamim mimman ma'ak, and not just son, not just one ummah. Umam is plural of ummah. And I send salam and barakat upon you and upon have salam from me, and I send barakat upon you and barakat upon all the ummahs from those with you. So what did that mean? Because if you remember the story that Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, he took all the remnants of humanity, because then the flood will come. He doesn't know that maybe right now, but all the rest of humanity, well, he would have, but all the rest of humanity will be wiped out. Means all the ummahs of all of the anbiya after Nuh alayhi salam themselves are descendants of the believers, the sahaba of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, of those who truly did believe in him and therefore survived the flood. Alright? So in one sense, we are all descendants of Adam alayhi salam. In second, we are all descendants of Nuh alayhi salam. Third, we are all descendants of the Sahaba, the Mu'mineen, the believers of Nuh alayhi salam. And therefore, Allah Ta'ala is telling him, it's an ishara, that you're worried about the one son. All these believers with you will be the future ummahs of all, will be from their progeny will rise all of the future anbiya and all of the future ummahs of all of humanity. Alright. We should end here. It's very late for me also. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to try and our best to understand Quran al-Kareem in this month of Ramadan, and to understand the history of the Anbiya alayhim, and for us to model ourselves and pattern ourselves after these greatest of humanity, all of the Anbiya alayhim, and to make use of their du'as from our own heart and our own feeling and relevant to our own lives and our own context in this month. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.